Hello, welcome to the Apartment Rouge. You have found the channel where I share poetry. Sometimes my own, sometimes that of others, and that's why this channel has never been monetized, so that I can just share the joy of poetry from around the world. There is poetry from all over. Feel free to go through the channel. There are nearly 100 videos now to find something you like, and if there is a request for a particular poem that you would like me to read, or a particular poet that you would like me to discover for myself, feel free to put that in the comments. I would love to hear it. I'm always looking to discover new poets, especially from other countries. I live in the US, but I love world poetry. Now, that being said, I have dabbled in other languages, but I'm really only fluent in English. And so the versions that you will find here on this channel are all in English. However, if you are able to read the original language that the poem was written in, I encourage you to go back and find that, because we all know that poetry in translation is kind of a interesting animal, right? You can never quite translate a poem into another language without losing something. It's just the way it is. So if you are able to read the original language that the poem is in that you find that you like, please do so, and enjoy both versions. At the same time, I am very, very thankful for translators, because otherwise there would be so much poetry out there that would be completely inaccessible to those of us who only speak one or two languages, right? Today, I would like to read a poem by a poet who is special to me. And again, that being said, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce his name, because my dealings with him have been mostly through email through the years. But I'm going to try. Micheal, because it can go either way, and I'm not sure which one he uses, so I'm going to give you both pronunciations. Micheal O'D or Micheal O'Day. I tend to call him O'Day, but I'm not sure how he pronounces it. He's an Irish poet, originally from Roscommon, spent some time in Dublin. I think he might be back in Roscommon now. I'm not 100% sure about that. He has two collections that I am aware of, one called Sunfire, the other called Turn Your Head, both written in English. He doesn't write in Irish. I love his work, and he's a special poet to me, because when I was a young poet just starting out, well, I had been writing for several years, but I just got connected to the internet for the first time, and I was used to writing in complete solitude. I didn't really have a poetic community, and so I just started, was it Google then? I'm not sure if it was Google then. It was in the early 2000s, like 2004, 2005, is whenever I got my first internet-enabled computer, and started. I was probably the last professional writer still in existence at that point, who was still using a typewriter and stuff. So my grandmother was like, no, if you're going to continue to do this professionally, we have to get you the tools of your trade, right? So you can use email and all that, like all the other writers are doing. So thank you to her for buying me my first internet-enabled computer. Anyway, so the first thing I did, though, was got on there and started Googling different poets, and just if their email was on their website, I would email them and introduce myself. I'm a poet from Appalachia, a disabled poet from Appalachia, and I'm pretty much writing in solitude. I don't really have a community here. At least I didn't yet, right? I've been building that. I would like to talk to you, and Micheal O'D or O'Day became my first mentor, so to speak, because he was one of the first poets to actually write me back. To be fair, A lot of them didn't, and I understand that because, you know, it's just some random person emailing you on the internet saying, hey, can we email back and forth? It's kind of strange, right? Especially in the land of the internet, you have to be careful who you're talking to. But I was really thankful to him. And also, he was helping, there was this one particular poem, well, he was helping me with several, but one particular poem that took me 3 years to write, and to this day is one of my favorite of my own work, if a poet can be allowed to say that. He was helping me with the revision process because it was like 300 lines long and it was crazy, and we were trying to cut it down. Now the finished product is something along the lines of 112 lines, something like that. He was helping me cut it down and refine it and organize it and pretty much put it together, because the way I write is a very laborious, slow process where I'll write a line here, write a line there, and then put it together into a poem and organize it later. And he was helping me do this because this was a very complicated project. Like I said, it took me 3 years. So, and by then my head was so involved in it, I really couldn't see it properly. You know, I needed an outside eye because after a while, and ear, because after a while you get so involved in your own work, you can't really see it or hear it anymore. You can't be objective anymore. And he really helped me with that. So I was emailing him back and forth, and there was a bunch of other poems he was helping me with too. I was new to computers. I didn't know how to back them up. And I had a hard drive failure, pretty much. A virus ate up my hard drive. I lost over 100 poems. That's whenever I learned the lesson that just because you have a computer doesn't mean that you still shouldn't keep handwritten copies of your poems in your little journal books that I used to do before that. I went back to doing that after that so that I could have have another copy somewhere. And most of those I lost. Over 100 poems I lost, including some of the ones that we were working on together. But he did still have a copy of the poem that took 3 years to write. He still had a copy of that, and he was able to email it back, and we were able to continue working on it. So he saved that poem. It is still in existence because of him, and that poem is called Valhalla Blue. So, and it's in my first collection, my debut collection, which has been out since 2007, I think. I think it came out April 12th, 2007. Anyway, it's in that book called Following Hope. You can get it on Amazon, I think. Well, I don't know if you can get like a hardcover or a soft cover at this point, but you can still get the ebook, for sure, on Amazon. So I wanted to read one of his poems from his collection, Sunfire, to show gratitude for him, and also because his writing is amazing. I know there's this glare from... I have to hold it at an angle or you can't really see it because the glare. If I hold it straight on, see? His writing is amazing to me. It's very rich in imagery. It's almost like a series of photographs that he puts together into a poem. And of course there's the emotion behind it. But if anything, his strong point is his imagery. So I wanted to read one of his poems for us today. This is called I Give You. Again, it is from his collection Sunfire. I give you this tree's dripping fruit to place in your mouth, to ripen on your tongue. The water guttering down these green leaves to be a trellis of fingers about you. This soft drizzle of sunlight to fall gentle as the petals of meadow sweet on your cheeks. This bindweed and all tendrils to hook and bind our desires together. See all that imagery? Isn't that... Ooh. I tend to rely heavily on imagery too. At least I did in the beginning. And it is my preferred, like the poems I prefer are rich in imagery. Lately I've been getting away from that a little bit and trying out other things. being a little bit more experimental and avant-garde with my work, but I do still like the imagery. And the difference, though, with him that makes his poems better, I think, is he does rely heavily on the imagery, but it's also very simple. Whereas, and this was the problem with Valhalla Blue that he was helping me with, I tend to get too heavy with the imagery. And it ends up getting too packed, right? And that was one of the things he kept helping me with. He was like, this is a bit much. Maybe you should cut this. This is a bit much. Maybe you should move that down here so give the poem room to breathe a little bit. Because it was just, he's like, it's like picture, 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 picture. He's like, you need to give the poem room to breathe a little bit. His poems tend to be short. And so his imagery is a lot simpler, and it comes, for that reason, it comes across with greater impact and sharper, because you're not being inundated with this really long movie of imagery. You just have one or two really, really crisp, really strong images. And I think that's what makes his poetry better. Another thing that he taught me that I still try to apply to this day, when it's appropriate for the poem, is when you write a poem, he said, after you've written it, go through and take out as many of the articles as you can, meaning the and a. Take out as many of those as you can while still maintaining the sense and meaning of the poem. Where your reader still won't get confused. And so that's something I still try to apply, because it does make for a better poem. Because you put in too many articles, and this is something I only noticed after he pointed that out. You put in too many articles and it actually slows down the poem, makes it clunky, and makes it sound more like prose. And so that's something I still try to apply to this day. Great and beautiful teacher, so I wanted to share that with you. Last I heard, he was more into doing anthologies of just Ross Common writers as a whole. He's putting out anthologies and stuff. He has a blog online that he posts to regularly. He's always sharing. I couldn't find that many books of his. I could only find Sunfire and Turn Your Head from Dedalus Press in Dublin. But he has that blog online where he posts to regularly, always sharing poetry and different things that interest him. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I should have had it up already. Let me Google it real quick. I know this is affecting my camera angle and making it shaky, but I apologize. As you can tell, I have my keyboard, using my keyboard as the stand for my camera. Oh, here it is. It's called Poetry and Miscellaneous Yap, and it is on Blogger. Poetry and Miscellaneous Yap. So if you found that an interesting poem, you can go and check out more of his work there on his blog. And if you comment and stuff, he will probably interact with you. He's a pretty awesome guy that way. Okay, so like I said, you can go back and check out the channel to see if there's other poems that you really like. I encourage you to subscribe, mostly because I do not post on this channel on a schedule, and there's lots of reasons for that. My health being one. As I said, I have, disability and chronic illnesses and things that affect my ability to film a lot. There's just a lot of reasons why I don't upload on a schedule. But if you subscribe, you should get a notification from YouTube telling you when I have uploaded next, so that you don't miss the next poem. And there are nearly 100 of other poems you can check out here. So thank you for joining me here on this channel where I do mini readings, and I will see you next time. Yes, thank you. Don't hunt you till we meet again.